Hey there. So in this example, we're going to talk about using data from your connected fundraising platform to build onto your Salesforce records. So if we take a look at the opportunity which gets produced, you can see that there are a few fields here which we might want to set. So gateway ID, receipt PDF, these kinds of things. This might be contained in the notification coming from your connected platform, which you can use to determine the value and set. So what I've also done is I've created just a basic flow, which is going to run against this donation. I haven't bothered to explain the setup of this flow because it's the same as our introduction to Move Data video, where there's obviously a flow, there's a field set, and the flow and the field set have been referenced in the Move Data pipeline. So what we can do if we click into our original notification is we can go into execution, and basically what's going on here is this is like a full set of logs of all the different parameters we have available from the platform at any one point in time. And you can see here that these ones are to do with the contact record. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, you get to where it says donation. And if you scroll to where it goes donation parameters, you can see there are a whole bunch of different data points to use when we want to go about setting this data into Salesforce. So if I open back up my opportunity record, I can see that one of these fields is gateway, which we want to set. So basically you can scan the data available here, and we can see here that we've got processor equals Stripe coming through. So we can add this into our flows. So we can do a decision, and we can say determine processor. It's important to have a decision here because you can have a variety of different processes. You could have Stripe, you could have PayPal, you could have eWay, you could have a whole bunch of them. So one of our outcomes is going to be Stripe. And I'm just going to leave this one as default. So we've got two paths, one which is Stripe and another one which is default. So if we go back to our execution log, we can see that the name of this is processor. So I'm going to copy that and go to resource, create new resource, variable, and I'm going to call it processor. So that has to be an exact match, and it's case sensitive, so API name processor. And in terms of the data type, you can look at the data in the notification. This is just text, right? It just says Stripe. So text, and we mark it as available for input, so we can use this in our flow. So I've added my resource in, and so processor equals Stripe, right? So all lowercase. So this is going to be processor equals Stripe, and you could scan through your notifications, or you could look up the connected platform and look up what different gateways they provide. It's always going to come through in this processor field where it could equal Stripe or PayPal or something else. So now I've got an option for Stripe and an option for anything else. If you wanted to add in PayPal, for instance, you do this, the resource would be processor, and the operator, you'd want to check this first, but it's going to be PayPal, all lowercase. Right? So now you've got three options. So what we'll do on this first one for Stripe is do an assignment. So we want to set, what was it called? Was it gateway? Cool. So set gateway. And I always put underscore Stripe at the end of it. So the variable is going to be record, which is the opportunity record. The field is going to be gateway, and we want it to equal Stripe. Now we can do the same thing for PayPal. If we paste this in here, then when the decision determines it's PayPal instead of Stripe, we can change that from Stripe to PayPal. So in this manner, we're using the data from the connected platform to determine what the processor is, and then we're going to set that gateway field as Stripe or PayPal, dependent on what the platform sends through. Now, there's also this field called Gateway ID. So if you look up our notification, we can see there's this one called processor transaction ID, and that's the unique Stripe ID which is coming through. So if it's Stripe, I mean, there's a lot of leeway which you can use in flows. So you might want to do another assignment here. So set gateway ID record gateway ID equals new resource variable, and we're pasting in this variable, processor transaction ID in this case, data type text available for input. So this is saying opportunity.gateway ID always equals the value inside processor transaction ID, which in this case is ch underscore blah blah blah. So we could do that here, so that when it goes through the Stripe decision, it's going to set the gateway and the gateway ID, but you'd also have to add it here as well underneath this PayPal logic. So I think for gateway, since it's not specific to Stripe versus PayPal, we can probably just add it here and avoid having to do it twice and maintain it everywhere else. Okay, so we're setting our processor as Stripe or PayPal. We're setting our gateway ID. And there's also this field here called receipt PDF. So there is like a bit of forensics in terms of looking through this notification and seeing what data you do have available. I know that receipt PDF, it does come through as this field here, custom receipt download URL, which is going to show me the PDF file. So what I can do is, again, I can copy this and I can add a decision, and I can say determine receipt PDF. Yes, exists. Receipt PDF. Otherwise, no, it does not. And the criteria is going to be this new resource, variable, custom receipt download URL, which is coming from the data source. Again, text available for input is null, false. So is null is like if it's blank, if it's blank, false. So if it's not blank, if it's present, then it exists. Otherwise, no, it does not. So we've got these two parts. So underneath yes exists, that's when we want to set it. So I'll create assignment. I'll say set receipt PDF, where record dot receipt PDF equals, what's it called, custom receipt download URL. So I'll click save. You could also add a decision above this to check if gateway ID was present, and if so, then set it. But I'll just click save and activate, and then I'll just reprocess our notification back into Salesforce. And basically now it's going to be running this logic. So it's going to determine if there's a value there for processor. Is it going to be Stripe? Is it going to be PayPal? Otherwise, it's going to be default. So if it's neither Stripe nor PayPal, it'll just run through here and not do anything. If it's Stripe, it'll set the gateway to Stripe. If it is PayPal, it'll set the gateway to PayPal. At the moment, it will always try and set the gateway ID to whatever's coming through underneath processor transaction ID. And if there's a receipt PDF, it's going to set it on that receipt PDF field. So this notification is run back in, and I can open up the opportunity. And if we scroll down, we can see that the gateway is Stripe. We've got our gateway ID as ch underscore that value, and the receipt PDF is also present. So in this way, you can evaluate the parameters coming through in your move data notification, and you can use them to go about setting those values on the particular record you're working with.